Hi friends, it's been a while. Hope you are doing really well. I've missed being in here. It's been a rough winter and I'm going to share some of that with you, what's been going on. But first, this is Lisa with Life with Fife, and this is a podcast where I talk about knitting and spirituality, creativity. I share my knitted items. I talk about that. I also talk about the intersection of creativity, spirituality, and knitting, and how those things weave together and help us to have a more meaningful, happy life, happy existence. And so today I'm going to be leaning into that whole thing because I want to share with you what's been happening over the winter. I had a really rough winter. I'm through it. And I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned and experiences that I had. But first, I want to share with you my first knitted object, finished object in a while. I feel like the whole winter went by and I was kind of not able to knit, but I did finish the Robinia sweater. Just love this sweater. It's very oversized, which I am feeling these days. I'm really liking an oversized fit. I love these sleeves. I love this yarn. This is the Isea, I don't know how to say it. I would say it Isea from Denmark. That's how I would say it, but I don't know if people pronounce it Isager. Her yarn, and I used silk mohair held with twinny, and I used alpaca. So these colors were alpaca. I think it's alpaca 2. The yellow and the red was twinny, held triple, 2 strands twinny, 1 strand silk mohair. And it's really drapey and really soft. What I love about this pattern is how it sits on the neckline. I love a wide neckline. I love that it hits right at the collarbone. I love the drop sleeve and I love the oversized sleeve. It's really, really, really pretty. And just a sweater that makes you feel elegant and modern. I love the colors that I used on here. I love this red, this deep red contrasted with the gold or straw color. And I love this deep green. And I'm wearing earrings that I don't usually get to wear because it's like they just go perfectly with this sweater. So, you know, what I love about this pattern, it's my first Anna Wenzel pattern, and I love it. It was very easy to follow. It was very intuitive. She uses short rows throughout to create the drapiness of this pattern, the drapiness of the sweater. You have a lot of freedom and a lot of creativity with regard to what color choices you pick. I'm actually thinking of doing another one in a lighter yarn, something like even a linen or something, to see how that will look and feel. But it's really just a really special, you know, usually when I wear a sweater that I've made, people are always like, oh, did you make that? And what I just heard when I wore this is, you know, I love your sweater. So it looks, I think, high-end. It has like a very high-end look. It has a very soft feel. This is a sweater. In my instance, it ate a lot of yarn. I didn't use up, I used less, I am left over with red, but I needed to order the yellow and the green a couple of times. I went through a lot more than I expected to on that. So it does eat a lot of yarn. It's a big, bulky, voluminous sweater. It's not bulky, it's just voluminous. It just fits, I feel like it fits, it's oversized. And if you like that kind of look, this is great for you, but you probably could knit it. I probably could have sized down an entire size and it would still fit me. But I'm really like I'm loving the oversized look. And I like how it sits on the shoulders. I love that it kind of like emphasizes the shoulders and the upper collarbone. And I think it's a really pretty sweater. So that was my big winter project. Was doing this, and I've been practicing. I started doing some lace knitting. That's the first time sweater's warm. I haven't worked with lace before, but I'm doing a little pattern, playing around with lace. I did, as I shared with you, some shawls, some dando shawls that were really fun and beautiful, and I loved them, and I'm so happy I did them. And I have I was reading Rick Rubin's book. I talked about that a little bit on the last podcast, and just, really kind of settling into this question of creativity. Where does it come from? How do we connect with it? How do we get more out of it? How do we create more of it? And what I think is really interesting is Rick Rubin says that creativity is not something that comes from within us, that it is something that is out there. It's like the air, it's like the stars. It's just out there, and we connect to ideas that are happening. It's like ideas are objective and they're floating around, and we connect with them. And I love that. I love that so much, because it kind of, when I talk about like knitting and spirituality, what I really mean is that the act of knitting, the repetition of knitting, the act of just knitting the same stitches over and over again, or following a pattern, and sort of quiets the thinking mind. It quiets the negative thoughts. It quiets all of our, self-doubt, all the things that we don't want when we're being creative. This repetitive act is sort of like a mantra or a meditation. It just lulls the mind into quietness, into calm. And when we get to that place, we can access all the good that's out there, all the creativity, that's all the things that are happening. I mean, I don't know how many of you have had the experience where you're meditating and you're just suddenly filled with ideas about what you want to do. Has that ever happened to any of you? It happens to me a lot. And I think when my mind quiets down, that's what happens. We are open, we become a more open vessel to what's happening in the world, and what other people are thinking and what ideas are out there. So it's really, so that was just like a really interesting idea that he had. And, that was part of the problems that I had this winter, was that I was kind of losing touch with that because of I was sick. I became really sick. It wasn't COVID, but I had some kind of illness where I was just flat on my back for weeks. And before I got to that point, I remember, I was thinking about my dad. My dad has been sick with Parkinson's for probably 20 years now, and he lives in Arizona, so very far away from me, and I don't get to see him as often as I'd like. And I have been thinking about him and knowing that he wasn't doing well, and our conversations were becoming really hard on the phone because it was just becoming harder and harder for him to talk, to actually use his voice and speak. So our phone calls I was calling him, but they were increasingly one-sided. And I just knew intuitively that that he was going to be passing soon. And my brother, went to visit him, and he was like, his dad's really not doing well. So I knew I was thinking of this. I was thinking of going out to see him, and I knew that I had to go and see him, and it was going to be a final goodbye. And so that was really a sad feeling for me. And so I right before this, I was kind of feeling sad about that, and I was dreading going out there to be with him for the last time. And then suddenly I became really ill, and I was just, honestly, I cannot believe it wasn't COVID, because it was such a terrible cough, and it was such intense congestion, and I did lose my sense of smell, and I was just completely exhausted. And and as I was just kind of flat out on my back, I did not feel creative. I did not feel connected with anything that was happening in the universe creatively. I didn't even want to watch or look at my knitting, watch podcasts about knitting or read knitting books, or I didn't want to sing. I didn't want to chant. I didn't want to do all the things that I normally do, that normally make me very happy and normally help me to feel really grounded in my life. And so I had the awareness that it's, you know, there's a saying, I've heard it said that do your practice while you can, because there'll come a time when it's going to be really hard to do your practice. Or the saying is actually do your practice while you're young, because as you get older, it gets harder. And I had that realization where I was just kind of like, there will come a time when it's going to be hard for me to do this. And it may sound morbid and exaggerated. And I think a lot of this is just natural. When we get sick, we think along those lines. But I was just really cognizant of the limited time that we have and the limited time that our bodies are healthy, because we're healthy until we're not. And then we realize how much we took that for granted. So it was really just a rough time on my back and just feeling out of it. And then looking forward to going to see my dad was also not something that I wanted to do. So then I got well, and I did get out to see my dad. I flew out, and I'm really glad, and I'm really glad that I was able to do it. We got to say goodbye in a way that was really beautiful and really meaningful. And he was alert, and he was aware, and there was nothing that was unsaid, and there was just this beautiful time together, alone with the two of us. And then very shortly after that, he went into a coma, and he passed very shortly after that. So I feel tremendously blessed that I got there, and I got to be with him, and I got to say goodbye. And I believe he is no longer suffering, and he's free of this body, and he is somewhere at peace. And so that makes me feel really good. But it's really a big deal losing a parent, and it kind of puts you face to face with mortality. And I feel like it's a huge privilege that I got to be with him and see death close up for a loved one. I think that is something probably most people do not want to experience, but I did wanted to experience. I feel like it was a rite of passage that I wouldn't have normally gotten to be with him, because he lived so far away from me. And but I did. I had that experience of being with him and seeing him up close in these final moments of his life, and to pray with him, and to just be with him and hold his hand and tell him I loved him. And so it was really quite meaningful, and I will never forget it. So then I came home. He passed away, and then I came home, and I've been, when something like that happens, it kind of takes a while to unfold the meaningfulness of it. And it was just, it was big. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've really reflected on another podcast. But yeah, so that's where I've been, and that's why I haven't been on here. And I just haven't had anything to say. Like I didn't want to come in here and sob. I didn't want to come in here and just not share some perspective that was somewhat meaningful. But I really feel incredibly grateful that I was out there with him. And it's very sad to say goodbye to your father, but he was 85 and he had been suffering for a really long time. And I didn't want that for him anymore. And I wanted him to be at peace. And so he is. And so, Dad, I love you. I miss you, but I talk to you all the time. Here's to you. Think of you all the time. So other things that are happening in life here in Vermont is we're coming up on the end of the school year. So there's a lot of, finishing up with the classes and doing some really interesting writing lessons, really enjoying that. We're reading Malala. I'm reading I Am Malala with my 7th graders. And it's just incredible how they are discussing this book and how meaningful it is to them. And it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to teach to children who are excited and questioning and learning about life through this book. It's really, really fascinating. So that's really great. In the garden, I have some video of the garden. The garden is going gangbusters. Mark is amazing. He finished the chicken coop, and we're waiting for the chickens. I've planted some early spring. I planted some early spring crops. I put in some spinach, some turnips, some carrots, radishes, some lettuces, and they're all coming up. So I'm gonna have, you know, I was so happy. I was watching, I think it was Charles Dowding or Hugh Richards. One of them talked about the importance of early sowing for certain cold. There are some crops that do not mind the cold and even a frost. So those in particular, and I'll do this every year. We had an amazing kind of, I don't know, screw up, mess up, I don't know, life with the compost. You know, we compost every year, and this was our third summer. And I can really see a difference. I'm going to go out into the garden in a little bit and show you around a little more. But I can really see a difference in the soil, which I think is so, to me, that is like one of the most satisfying things about, we moved up here because we wanted to leave the hecticness of life on Long Island behind. We wanted a slower life. We wanted a life that was more connected with nature, and a life that we would have time to do the things that we love. And that has absolutely been true for us. And the thing that I didn't realize was how alive gardening would make me feel. And there's been like movies about soil health, and somebody said that gardening, someone talked about how COVID brought, it was a chef he lived in Brooklyn, and COVID brought him to his garden because he couldn't do anything, the lockdown. And he said, you know, he was covered with tattoos, he had a nose ring, and he had, you know, typical Brooklyn hipster kind of chef. And he said that having a garden just connected him to Mother Nature, to Mother Earth, in a way that he never would have expected, and transformed his life. And I feel very much like that being in the garden is like the piece of something that was missing. And it does the same thing to me, having my hands in the dirt, looking at the garden, just being out there, looking at the work we've been doing on this tree, just kind of bringing it back to life, pulling invasive species out of this tree that was nearly dead before when we bought the house, seeing the soil improve, seeing our compost just grow and flourish. And I'll tell you what happened with our compost in 1 second, a quick way to make compost. Seeing how the grass and all life forms, and the bees and the birds, and that we're building a really diverse ecosystem in our backyard. And I love it. It brings me so much happiness. I can't even tell you. This was something that I longed for many years, but I don't think that I believed how much happiness it would bring me. And it's just, happiness is not even the right word. It's a sense of peace, a sense of connection to life, a sense of connection to the earth that grounds me so profoundly. It's really, really quite remarkable. I wouldn't have thought that it could be this meaningful to me. But here's the compost story. So we go out, we take out, we have our compost bin, and it's always covered. And last year we had put it in there when we have 2 bins, and we unloaded it, we uncovered it after the long winter, and we had tons. We had, an entire bin full of really rich, beautiful compost. Well, this year we came out and we had a very dry summer, and we had a fairly dry winter. The snow came late, and it just didn't, I don't know if there was too much brown matter in the compost, if there was too little green matter, what was happening to our food. We bokashi our food before we put it in the compost. I don't know what the story was. I have no idea what happened, but it was just like we had a lot of pine needles. Maybe that was it. The pine tree that we're trying to save it shed a tremendous amount of needles, and a whole bunch of needles came in this year. So we were like, maybe it was going through a healing crisis and it just shed all these pine needles. Anyway, we put them all in the compost, and maybe that was too much pine needles. Pine needles are slow to break down. But we were like, holy shit, what happened? And it was so disappointing. We were ready to start transferring our compost into our beds, and we don't have any compost. But I saw this video about how you can do it quickly by you remove the compost, you put in the center all kinds of food matter, you put in equal parts green and brown, and then you add whatever dirt you have or whatever compost is existing, that you have existing compost, you put it in and you turn it, and you do this for like 14 days. Now we're really on day 20. Where I saw it being done, it was done in a warmer climate at the end of summer when the earth is really warm. Our earth here in Vermont is quite cold. So it took us maybe, they had steam rising in 5 days. It took us about 10 days to have steam rising off the compost, but we've been doing it back and forth, and we now have really rich, usable compost that we'll be able to use in our beds, which is so exciting and amazing. I can't tell you how happy that makes me. So we're just, that was, and every year we learn something new. We're getting chickens in a few weeks. I just can't wait. I contacted the farm where we're getting our chickens, and they said that you probably will have them next week. So we're gonna drive up. We're getting our chickens from Sugar Feather Farm, a heritage chicken place here in, I think it's in Wallingford, Vermont. I'm probably wrong about that. But it's about 2 hours from here, north of us. And they have beautiful chickens. We're getting 2 Copper Marin, one Bildenfelder, and 1 True Blue Whiting, which lays light blue eggs. And I'm so excited. We're gonna try to do feed. We're not gonna use feed. We're gonna try to train the chickens to eat compost. Apparently, that is a huge thing. And it's more of their natural diet because the compost contains grubs and thousands of microbes and all these, and food waste that's decomposing at various levels, and that the chickens can easily digest. And the chickens, kind of by scratching and eating it, they kind of further the compost process along, and by pooping and all that stuff. So it's like, it just enhances the whole composting process. So excited about that. Can't wait to see my chickens. And we didn't get them as chicks. We're getting them as fully feathered. They're going to be pretty big. So yeah, I'm like super excited about this. And it's like next year, we're already planning some crops because I'd like to have bees. I'm going to like to get bees next spring. And I just am so excited. I'm so into it. I think it is so meaningful and wonderful. And I'd love to go out into my yard. And so I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to show you around. But thank you so much for being with me and for watching so far. If you like what you hear, please do like and subscribe. We talk about all kinds of fun things in here. And tell me, have you lost a parent? How has it been for you? Please, please do share, because it's such a big deal, right? So lots of love, and I'll see you out in the garden.
Hi. So the first thing I want to show you is our little miniature greenhouse that we just set up, which is amazing. And it's allowing us to kind of really grow our plants before we put them into the ground, give them a better chance of survival. So let me just flip it around and I'll show you. So here we have, I believe these are cucumbers growing in here, and you can see it's just a kind of small, it's not huge, but it provides us just enough space. We could do our lettuces maybe are a little too hot in there, and the leeks and fennels and the hot peppers. Yeah, we have emerging tomato plants. These are tomatoes. These are nasturtium. Here's some squash, and it's really great. So I'm gonna close this up. I'll show you the finished chicken coop. So here's our chicken coop. We're so excited. We're gonna have chickens. And Mark did such an amazing job. He built all of this. Here we have like a little door and a screen where they'll be able to get air in and out, but we can close during the winter so that they'll stay warm. Here's where they're gonna lay. It looks so beautiful. We're gonna fill it up with, we're gonna put our hay in, and we're gonna do sand. We even have a lock on the door. I'm telling you, he did an amazing job with this. Oh, we have our sand is already put in here. And here's the run into the coop, into the, I don't know what that's called. I guess that's the coop. And here's our sand. Underneath here we have like vinyl sheet, and then we have on top of that gravel, and then we have the sand. So the sand will make it easy for us to pick up poop and keep this area clean for them. But it's super exciting to have them, and we're really excited that they're going to come soon, and I know that they're going to be safe in here. And we're going to do something as a run for them outside where we can keep them protected. So let me show you what we got going on in the garden. It is not ready yet, so this is just so filled with weeds. Put down wood chips the other day, or maybe last weekend, or maybe 2 weekends ago, I can't remember. And we're still getting lots of weeds coming up, so we're gonna have to do some serious weeding in here. But I wanted to show you what we have going on so far. So we're having some good success. Some things are not coming up, but what are we having success with? Let's see. Here we got a dandelion. I'm gonna pull these out. It's amazing how the weeds just the weeds just come up. So we have here's some kale. This is a row of kale here. Very excited. Here's a row of leeks, and I am having some leeks come. I'm so excited. And here's a row of fennel. Oh, I'm so thrilled. I can't believe it came. It's been so cold. This is so exciting. We have lettuce. We have romaine lettuce growing here. Regular lettuce growing here. I think this looks like red lettuce. What is, I can't remember what lettuce, but it's lettuce. Fennel. I'm so excited to have fennel. We kept these two empty. This is, where's our stick? Here I have some onions. This looks like more kale. I think I have 2 things of kale here. Yeah, that looks like kale. And here we have onions. Onions are growing a little more sparsely, but they do seem to be growing. Okay, then we have, this is a row of carrots. I have dark purple carrots, and I have red carrots, and I have orange carrots. So lots and lots of carrots. I probably should thin these out, but you know what? I'm gonna let them be. And we did not put a sheet down, so we are gonna have to weed this particular area. More carrots. Pull out this dandelion. Purple carrots. Beets. Let's see the beets. Are they growing? I don't know if the beets are coming. These don't look like beets to me. I don't think we got any beets. And we got radishes. Radishes are really, I could probably even clip some of those as microgreens. Really excited. I'm gonna do some watering. But that's what's happening right now. Otherwise, we are kind of in a holding pattern. Once the compost is finished, we're going to do our normal thing. Hold on 1 second. We're going to experiment with some vertical planting this year. So I'll show you at some point. We have some vertical structures that are really exciting. And it's all really great. I'm just so excited. So I'm going to show you our little side garden. Here we have our hostas. Here we're going to have a beautiful, that's going to be a butterfly bush that came back. I think that's going to come back. There's a bee. Can you see the bee? A beautiful bee. And we have hostas coming up. We have these blue violets that are all over the place. And honestly, like, I planted one and transplanted them from our neighbor's yard, and they've just grown and spread. Here's some sage that I grew last year that's coming back. There's some more of it. So happy. This is going to also be, I'm not sure. I have to get in here and do some weeding, but everything's looking really good. We had a daffodil, more hostas. I think I planted some sage here that I do not see it coming back, but I see that the violet is spreading. And this is interesting. I had overwintered some geranium in the garage, and I'm gonna see if it comes back. I saw a video, somebody was saying that you can do that. So we'll see. I mean, it has some, feels hollow, but I don't know. The woman was saying that you could do this, so we're gonna give it a shot and see what happens. This is gonna be the goldenrod. The goldenrod grows to about taller than me, probably 6 feet tall, and the bees love it. And I'll just show you the backyard, how beautiful everything looks. What a blessing. Holy moly. So good. Have an amazing day, everybody.